Hello and welcome to LMJO Tech Academy. You are watching the course Installing and Configuring Windows 7. The exam code is going to be 70-410. I will be your instructor and you are going to study all the exam objectives in this video. So, before starting, I would like to tell you the purpose of installing and configuring Windows Server 2012 exam. As you can see, that 70-410 is the exam code for it. Whenever you want to take an exam, you have to go through this code, meaning that if you want to register, you have to go to test center and ask them that I want to take an exam for 70-410. So installing and configuring Windows Server 2012 is the first exam for Server 2012, meaning that if you're planning to take an exam or if you are planning to learn Windows Server 2012 in depth, you have to start from installing and configuring Windows Server 2012, because this is going to cover all the concepts of installing and configuring. Like, as you can see, that installation is easy. Like Server 2012, Windows 8, the installation is easy, like they are the same. But the main idea is that whenever you are installing an operating system, whenever you are trying to deploy a server environment, or you're trying to design a server environment for a small business, enterprise business, doesn't matter. You have to have the concept of installing and configuring, meaning that installing in a way means like whenever you are installing Windows Server 2012 for a company that's having large number of users, you have to take care of the additions that Server 2012 have, and you have to take care of the hardware requirements that the server requires, and you have to see some other options that are really required before installing Server 2012. And in terms of configuring, and if we see, like, configuring is another part. Like, once you install Server 2012, there are some configuration parts that you have to know, because configuration is sometimes easy, sometimes not easy. Even if it is easy, the difficult part is that how are you configuring it? Are you configuring the service that you want in a proper way or no? That's the main thing that you have to know. So we are going to see in this course in two ways, in two things. First, I will define, or I will tell you each and everything that is going to be coming in your exam. This course is going to prepare you for the exam, and this course I will just give you practical life scenarios, labs, so that you will be superstar for installing and configuring Windows Server 2012 by keeping each and everything in your mind. So let's go and start. Before starting, I have to tell you about myself. My name is Parvez LMJO and I am Bachelor in Information Technology, and I've got 9 years of experience in networking domain. So meaning that I've been working in enterprise networks, in a very large network since last 9 years. So I've got too much experience in networking. I'll just give you each and everything that I have in my mind. I'll just walk you through practical life scenarios for all the courses that we are going to have. I've got 4 years of teaching experience. I've been teaching in many different universities, and suddenly the idea of making a free online training website come into my mind, so that I can just serve to others. Whatever knowledge I have, I can give it to others, and I will do that for sure. The certifications that I have got is Microsoft Certified Solution Expert in Server 2012's messaging, which is Exchange Server 2013, and SharePoint 2013. Later on, you will have all the video trainings on like Exchange Server, SharePoint, everything that I have posted in my website. So I am also Cisco CCNA routing switching, voice, security and design. Cisco certified network associate. CCNP, I am routing switching, design and security. And CCI security written exam I have given. Still my lab is pending. I'll be doing that hopefully, because that's the hard thing and you have to have a lot of time. And I am ITIL, which is, and if you see, it's like IT management. We are going to have all these courses that I have. So you can reach me through my Skype ID, and you can, don't forget to like LMJO Tech Academy. And whenever you have any problem, whenever you have any question, or whenever you want to have a video training on anything you want, just you need to post. It should be Microsoft or Cisco. Just you can post, and after that you will have it as soon as I can. So what are we going to discuss and cover in this course? The first thing is deploying and managing Windows Server 2012, which means that whenever you are deploying and managing Windows Server 2012, what are the important things that you have to know before installing? Like before installing, what are the best practices? And once you install it, how can you manage it? What are the managing things? What are the management things that you have to do in order to make sure that you have a stable, or you have a good running Windows Server 2012 environment? So Active Directory domain services. Active Directory domain services is another topic that we will be covering it in brief. Active Directory is like a boss of your network, meaning that whenever you install Active Directory with Windows Server 2012 and join computers to your domain or make them member of Active Directory, what's going to happen is that all the clients that are member of Active Directory, they are going to be managed by the Active Directory. All the controls are going to be by Active Directory. Like in Office, there is a boss. The boss is just controlling all the stuffs. So we will just go in brief on it. Managing Active Directory domain services objects. Like once you install Active Directory, you have to manage its objects. I will give you the best practices of managing Active Directory, because that's one of the important things that you have to know. Objects. What are objects in Active Directory? Users. Whenever you create users in Active Directory, whenever you create computer accounts in Active Directory, or groups in Active Directory, all those are called objects. So whenever you create those objects should be created. Like creation is very easy. Right click, new user. Right click, new computer account. Right click, new group. But managing those in a way so that they will not be affected is another important thing. That's why we have to know how to design a best structure for our Active Directory, which is another important thing. So after that, automating Active Directory domain services administration. As you know that most of the company have too many user accounts, like they have a lot of clients. In those scenarios and those things, how are you going to do that? For example, in your organization you have one system admin who is working with servers, and the boss is asking him that I want you to create 50, 100, 200 user accounts in 5 minutes. Can you do that manually? You cannot do that manually. So automating Active Directory domain services is another part. Like how can you automate it so that the tasks that you are going to do is be faster. After that, we are going to see implementing IP version 4. IP version 4, how can you assign IP address in Windows Server 2012 environment, and what is IP version 4? How can you implement IP version 4? Because nowadays what is happening is that most of the people who are working in IT, if you tell them that there are 100 clients, you have to assign IP addresses to them. What are they doing is they are either using class A, class B, class C, because they don't have the idea of IP addressing. So what are we gonna do is we are gonna see that whenever you are implementing IP version 4, what are the best practices, how can you do IP addressing, how can you do VLSM, and how can you divide networks, how can you divide hosts in order to save IP address and make sure that you have security in your IP version 4 environment. Implementing DHCP, Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, is another part of the exam. We will see what are the best practices as well. DHCP stands for Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. Whenever we assign IP addresses, it have got two ways. You assign IP addresses manually or automatically. So manually, you just do it by your own. Automatically, you need to use DHCP. DHCP is used to assign IP addresses automatically to the clients, because in environments where you have too many users, too many computers, you cannot assign them IP addresses manually, because it's going to take your time, it's going to have a problem in terms of security as well, so that someone can easily guess what is the IP of that computer. So DHCP is used to assign IP addresses automatically to the client. We will see it in practical. After that, we are going to see implementing IP version 6. As you saw IP version 4. IP version 4 was the first release, like it came first, and you know it's a decimal number like 10, 0 to 10 and 0 to 255, sorry. So but IP version 6, because IP version 4 is not enough, it's going to be ending someday. It's already the USA is already out of IP version 4 addresses, as I know. So IP version 6 is hexadecimal, and if you do IP version 4 is 32-bit. If you do 2 to the power of 32, you will see how many IP addresses you can get. With IP version 6, if you do 2 to the power of 128, because IP version 6 is 128, you will see that you will get the number of IP addresses that is not countable. Like, it gives you too many addresses, and it's a hexadecimal number system. So we will see it in brief. Implementing local storage. We will see that how can we implement local storage, like how can you have your storage devices like your hard drive, how can you have different type of like, for example, in most of the environments where you are running Windows Server 2012 or any other servers, the data is always important for you. So what are you doing is that you are having multiple hard drives, and then you're managing your storage in a way that if one of those hard drive fails, you still have your data. So after that, we will see how can we implement file and print services. File and print services means that how can you implement file sharing. File sharing means that you have a file server, a central server, and then everyone is accessing the server, everyone is accessing the files, the folders, each and everything in order to do the daily jobs. So we will see that how can we share a file, how can we assign security, how can we do that. And one of the important things that I'm gonna teach you is how can we have a very well structure for our files and folders, because most of the people, what they do is they make a mistake, like they don't put the security permissions properly, and everyone is going to have an access to each other's files and folders. Then what is going to happen, that the confidentiality and integrity is going to be lost. And we will see how can we manage a print server, so that whenever you are going to have a central print server, whenever someone is going to print something, you're gonna manage that print services, like all the printers, you can manage it from there. After that, we will see how can we implement a group policy infrastructure. Group policy, as Active Directory is very important, group policy is also very important. As you can see that it's a policy server that is together with Active Directory. What are you doing is that you are creating an infrastructure where you are putting policies. For example, whenever a client is member of the Active Directory domain, what are you doing is that you're creating group policy, like The password must be complex. It should not be 1234, because if it is 1234, it's going to be hacked. Or you are saying that the finance user should not be able to access control panel. The accounting user should be able to access control panel. You're putting different type of policies in order to make your infrastructure, in order to make your network secure and free of viruses, because group policy really helps you in order to do what? In order to make a environment where everything is secure. Securing Windows Server 2012 or securing Windows Server by using group policies, another thing. Like, what are you doing is that you're putting password policies, you're putting account policies, and as well as, for example, you're securing most of the other things. Like, for example, you are seeing that most of the viruses are coming through flash drives. What are you doing is that you're blocking those flash drives. Or you can do many more things with group policy in order to secure your Windows Server environment. After that, we will see implementing server virtualization with Hyper-V. Hyper-V is the new feature that came up with Server 2008. It is now in Server 2012, also available with Windows 8. Virtualization is another thing that we are going to see. What is virtualization? If you see it, virtualization is like installing multiple operating systems in one physical machine. In order to do what? In order to save money, in order to have flexibility, in order to make sure that you manage those servers properly, like it's going to save your time. Their virtualization is really good. So we will see it in brief, but what is virtualization? Installing multiple operating system in one physical machine. So what is Hyper-V then? Hyper-V is a built-in application that is available with Server 2008, Server 2012 and Windows 8 that you can install in your physical machine to do what? To install operating system on it. Because I will give you more examples on it, and after that we will see what is implementing DNS, domain name system. As group policy is important, Active Directory is important, DNS is also important. So DNS, the job is like resolving name to IP and IP to name. Because IP addresses, if you have 1000 clients running in your environment, can you remember their IP addresses? But if you have a very well naming convention and structure, you can remember it and you can access it whenever you want. For example, there is a computer in finance department, and that finance department belongs to Ministry of Education. So my naming convention is MOE, which is Ministry of Education. FIN means finance, C means client, 001. So if I want to have, if I want to access a client, which is in finance, if I have a very well naming convention and the DNS is working, that client is registered with DNS, I can simply say ping MOE FIN C001. So whenever you're saying google.com, pressing enter, what is happening? The DNS is resolving the name to IP address and then IP address to the name. That is what happening. And one of the important thing is that Active Directory cannot work without DNS. Correct? So we will see these things in brief, but this was just a simple explanation and introduction of what are the things that we are going to study. I hope this was informative for you, and don't forget to access LMJO Tech Academy and post in Facebook page if you really need to have more training.